All right, well, I had to go back and do quite a bit of a review and study myself, trying to figure out where it is that we left off. I'm very thankful that Braden records these and uploads it on our YouTube channel, because I was able to go back and see, all right, now, where was it that we left off at? And I'm just like, okay, all right, we're in Ephesians 6. Ephesians chapter 6, I believe we actually are picking up, we ended with verse 7, and we're picking up at verse 8. But to kind of give, I guess, everybody a good review, since it's been quite a few weeks since our last study from Ephesians. Paul is now addressing specific groups at the church there at Ephesus. And what groups has he already taught and discussed about?
Isn't that the leaders, the Sadducees and all them? Is that who he's talking about?
No, you're getting mixed up with Wednesday night class. What's that? Okay, yes, first the husbands and wives, and then children. Slaves and masters, and we can't forget fathers. There you go. Yes, absolutely. And so notice how these demographics or these groups, there's a relationship that they have toward each other. So they're kind of broken down into pairs. You got the husbands and wives, you got the marriage relationship. You got the children and the fathers, which is a parent and child relationship, father and son relationship. And then you got masters and slaves. Now, thankfully, we don't have, a servitude or slaves, in today's society and whatnot. But however, during that time, most slaves, they were put into slavery because of debts, correct? Okay, because of debts. So there's money that's involved in there. Now, do we have a practice today that involves money and us?
And debt, yeah.
And debt, yeah. How do we pay off those debts? We need a what?
A job.
A job, there you go. We need a job, job. Yes, in order to pay off those debts. Yes, so we earn wages by laboring, and then if we are in debt, we pay off those debts by our wages. And so debts can come in all shapes and forms, correct? You can come education debt, school debts. You got car debt because you're taking a loan out in order for them to purchase, for you to purchase that vehicle, and then you're making a payment each and every month to pay off that debt. And so they come in all shapes and forms and sizes. And so in order for us to pay off those debts, we need a job. So that is actually where we left off, is that we stopped at the relationship between slaves and masters, or an employee and an employer relationship. Let's kind of go ahead. It begins at verse 5. And like I said, we finished at verse 7, but let's go ahead and kind of just refresh our memory by reading the text of verses 5 through 9. Need somebody to go ahead and read that.
Bondservants, be obedient to those who are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and sincerity of heart as to Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as bondservants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will doing service as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatever good anyone does, he will receive the same from the Lord, whether he is a slave or free. And you masters, do the same things to them, giving up threatenings, knowing that your own master also is in heaven, and there is no partiality with him.
All right, thank you. So I want you to notice a couple of things. When he first directs his attention to the slaves, he says, I want you to work or obey your masters with sincerity of your heart. And then he says to masters, I want you to treat your slaves fairly. Stop your threatening. So what does that imply? If he's telling the slaves, you need to work with sincerity of your heart, masters, you need to stop threatening, what does that imply?
Lazy.
Slaves are being lazy, and masters were doing what?
Mean.
They're mean. Yes, they're mean and threatening them. And so that was what was going on. And it's interesting that these were Christians. And a lot of people often ask nowadays is that, with Christianity, isn't having slaves, bad? Well, it never says it. It never says that having slaves, was bad or evil. But, like I said, most slaves were in slavery because of debts that they need to be paid back. And so in this relationship between servants and masters, the servants are to work honestly, to have integrity, to work blamelessly with uprightness and genuinely, with masters not being threatening and not being, I guess, like lording or dominating over them to the sense where, it's not going to be good for their work ethic. It's not going to be good for, their relationship-wise with their masters. And so Paul's trying to mend, these relationships here. And the way to do it is that if each person takes accountability and it takes responsibility of what they need to do, things would go well. And so notice how slaves are to work with sincere heart, not by the way of eye service as people pleasers, but as servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart. Now, what does he mean by not by eye service?
Just when they are watching you.
Just when they are watching you, absolutely. Yep. Normally there's that old saying that says, when the cat's away, the mice come out to play, right? Absolutely. And I've had fellow ministers, preacher friends of mine, who would tell me that, every time that they go away to speak somewhere, he says, they come back and the congregation's almost a wreck. but that's with congregations that don't have a stable leadership. I mean, it's a smaller, but they have a men's group meeting and everything, and so they find it much more difficult to have to be away for a week or two, then come back and things are in chaos. But yes, when the cat's away, the mice come out to play. And so Paul says that you don't need to be acting like that. You don't need to be working just when the boss is looking and watching. How are you supposed to work?
As your service to Christ.
As your service to Christ. Yes, and so the way that you are working for your employer is going to be the same way that you work for your Lord and Master, Jesus Christ. And so the old saying says that you can be able to tell a person's servanthood and service to Christ by observing their service in their earthly jobs. Yep. I mean, if they are slackers at their jobs, at work, then what does that kind of tell you about their service and work for Christ? What?
They're slackers, period.
They're slackers, period.
At home, too.
Yes, at home, absolutely. And then so you have to keep in mind that even though your boss may not be watching you, who is watching you at all times? God is. And so there's many today, sadly, that try to, in this day and age where people just don't want to work, they complain about their work and everything, complain about their jobs and whatnot, and then yet they cry and moan as why they don't have why their paycheck isn't as much as they thought it'd be. Well, it's because you don't want to take the hours to work. Simple as that. Yeah, you can't just have handouts to you. And so, anyways, you have people that complain about their job, and so when they are there, they put forth little effort. But that's how it doesn't need to be with Christians. Those who are in Christ Jesus, we're called to be different from the world, right? So the world may say that, oh, well, I want a handout. But the Christian is to be different from the world. We're to be the direct opposite. We should be like, no, we need to work hard. We need to earn our wages. Now, is it hard and difficult to work when you have a boss that is very demanding and overbearing?
Yes.
Yes, it is. I wish there's a simple solution, or an easy solution, but what does Paul tell us to do? Even when you have a boss that may be overbearing, how are you to behave?
The right way, just like Christ was doing, you're still working for him,
That's right.
not your boss.
That's right. You're still working for Christ.
If you would do that job, then you should do it. And if you can't or want another job, get another job.
Absolutely, you can. You can. You have opportunities to be able to, if you don't like the job you have opportunities to be able to look for a different job. Yeah, but now some people, they end up not planning correctly, and they would quit right away and then look for a job. Now, look for the new job first, and then give to your notice. Yeah. But however, it can be difficult when you have a boss that is very overbearing. But however, we need to keep in mind that we are still working for Christ. We're servants of Christ, and we are doing the will of God from the heart, rendering service with a good will as to the Lord and not to man. So keep this in mind, is that when you have a boss that would ask you and demand you to do something that goes against God's will, what are you to do?
Tell them no.
Tell them no. Yes. That's the only exception when you are not to follow and obey your employer, is when he or she demands you to do something that is not right, that is against the will of God. That is when you're able to say, no, I'm not going to do it. And give your reason why. Because you never know. Sometimes by giving your reason why you're not going to do it, something may click in their head and be like, maybe this person right here is onto something. Maybe they're right. Maybe I need to be a little bit more honest. You never know. Something may click in their head and be like, I probably shouldn't do that. And you're probably right. But however, we need to set the standard, and we need to be the example for our employers, especially if they are not Christians. And they're going to take notice of our work ethic, right? They're going to notice that we can be reliable, that we are responsible, that we're accountable, that we have integrity, and that we can do an honest day's work. And then because of that, who knows what's going to happen? You may end up getting a promotion. You may end up getting an increase of your pay. You never know. I know I saw a video recently, and I thought this was awesome. Because these are more videos that need to be shared and talked about, because it's about kindness and goodness when you do an honest day's work. The video recently happened. I don't know where it occurred, but the video was taken from a doorbell cam, and I guess the homeowner had ordered a pizza. It was a guy from Domino's. Have y'all seen this? Okay, some of y'all said, yeah. Y'all saw it. And then he came and he handed him a Diet Coke, and the guy's like, wait a minute, I thought I said you didn't have Diet Cokes. And then so he explained, he goes, oh, well, I just stopped, on my way somewhere and picked one up for you, since we didn't have any. And because of that, a conversation had started, and come to find out is that the man that was working for Domino's worked there for 26 years. He's retiring, but however, the company does not offer a pinch. And so the homeowner decided to go start a GoFundMe for this man, and already over $180,000 have been donated to this man for his retirement. All because the guy did an honest day's work, but yet he went the extra mile to show an act of kindness. And folks, things like that can happen. Now, do they always happen? No. Is it promised? No. But what Paul says, though, however, is that knowing that whatever good anyone does, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he is a slave or free. Now, receiving back from the Lord, I'd say that man's retirement was definitely a blessing in disguise. But however, it's not always the case. We may not always physically, in this realm, receive something such as a retirement pinch like that. But we can know for certain that we'll be recognized and receive back the reward when? Let's say it louder.
When you go to heaven.
When you go to heaven. Absolutely. When you go to heaven. We know that for certain. And so we need to do an honest day's work. We need to be eager to do a task and to do it wholeheartedly at work. A willingness to do all that the master/employer requires. So again, the standard is as to the Lord and not as to men. So if you have an overbearing boss that demands a lot from you, you need to keep this in mind. You need to train your thinking. Train your mind, train your thinking, train your heart to say, okay, I'm doing this for the Lord. Not to him, but to the Lord. It's a lot. It's overbearing. This boss is always on my case, but I'm going to keep doing it. Keep putting forth the effort. Why? Because I'm doing it for the Lord. That is our main goal and our main objective, is that we're doing it for the Lord. Now, of course, he then has to direct his attention to the masters or the employers. He says, masters, do the same to them and stop your threatening. knowing that he who is both their masters and yours is in heaven, and that there is no partiality with him. All right. So it is likely that there were Christian slaves and Christian masters worshiping side by side in the assembly. So he says, do the same thing. Means to act correspondingly toward the slave. That is, as if the eye of Christ were on you. So keep in mind that others may not be around to see or to witness or to even hear you threatening your employee. But guess who is? God. God is. And so that is what Paul means by when he says, do the same thing, to act correspondingly toward the slave, as if the eye of Christ were on you. Thus they are not to do what Christ would not approve. They should give up threatening. Means to stop punishing them for no reason. Stop punishing them just because you're angry. Stop punishing them just because you think you have all this power. He says, don't do that. Now, if the slave or employee is being punished for not doing their job, then yes, then they deserve it. But however, it seems to be the case here is that they were just threatening them because they wanted to show how much lordship or power that they probably had over them. And so he says, you need to stop doing that. Stop punishing them for no reason. This should be left off because knowing that both their master and yours is in heaven means that you too are under a master. And yet this master rules by self-sacrificing love toward us. And so your standard is to be the standard of your master, capital M. And that's Christ. And the standard he has is one of self-sacrificing love. Okay, Bonnie, you had your hand up.
The thing about that is a lot of these people you work for are not Christians.
I know.
And a lot of people that are working for them aren't Christians.
Yeah, I know.
So that is not the normal in a workplace.
Absolutely. It's not. And I would say that a lot of them, they may not be, Christians, New Testament Christians in Christ, but however, they may have some sort of knowledge of Christ. They may attend some denomination. They may know some certain things about them. And yet you can be able to bring that to their attention and be like, hey, I know that you have some sort of, knowledge or belief in Christ and that you attend, this church or this denomination over here. I mean,
but you should still do the right thing regardless if they are or not. But
yes.
There's just a lot of people who are not.
Yes, that's right. And for those who are not, then what should we do?
Be examples.
Be examples. Yes. Greg.
I just going to say, they know you are a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and they're watching you.
Yes.
If you're going to be consistent, if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to do the right thing, speak up for the right person,
Absolutely. And the thing is that in some cases, in certain jobs or careers, they're going to be watching you. And sadly, their main reason for watching you is because they're waiting for you to slip up.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do when you slip up?
Oh, they're going to
Tail.
blast
Oh,
you.
yes. They're going to blast you. They are going to blast you.
But Cory, those people that are out there too, some of them do not belong to our religion, but they belong to others' religions.
Mhm.
And they kind of sometimes get between you and that person.
Mm.
Or they start going, oh, they start letting it be known. And other people will turn around and go, oh. And then it turns everybody's eyes to whoever's being hateful to you.
Mm. That's another interesting point. And so being in a workplace can be tough at times, am I right? And again, I think Bonnie does bring up a good point, is the fact that Paul's addressing here of, bosses and employees or masters and slaves who are Christians, who are worshiping together side by side. But yes, in the secular realm, the majority of the jobs that we have, they're not Christians. And so it can make things a little bit, difficult. But however, as long as we maintain our integrity and our honesty and setting ourselves as examples, and again, the standard of Christ is our standard that we are to follow and to exemplify and to display, we need to be those examples for them. And I'd say during those times at work too, look for the opportunities where you can share the gospel, where you can share the message of Jesus Christ. Now, I know oh, you about to say something, sister? Elaine? Yeah, Elaine?
Well, the boss is usually watching everybody, and when they see you doing a good job, even though they may be a bad boss, but they will see what you're doing, and they will be more lenient toward you than they will others that are being lazy and not doing what they're supposed to. But they see from both directions whether you're doing a good job or you're not. And if you're trying to be in defiance, they're going to be right back on you. But if they see you're really trying, then they tend to ease up about being hard on you.
Yes, they do.
They always
And-
know you're gonna do the job.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
That's right. And so, and the good thing about that is, in case if there's somebody, let's say like you get promoted to assistant manager, for example, and some fellow employee there, gets a little bit jealous and upset because they were there longer than you, and so they're going to try and kind of set you up, falsely accuse you. But this particular employee is known for causing issues. He or she is always late. They're always stirring up trouble. They're always causing problems with their customers or clients or patients and so forth. And so when that accusation is brought up against you, and knowing your character from the character of the other employee, what's your boss going to say?
He's on your side.
Yeah, they're probably going to pick your side. They're going to be thinking like, wait a minute, hold on. Like, first off, I know this employee right here. I know he or she is reliable, very reliable. They get the job done and so forth. So why would he or she even do such a thing like that to begin with? Now you, on the other hand, I've known you to cause up a lot of trouble. And then so,
You're fired.
You're fired. And then so you make a great point there, Elaine. I mean, when you do an honest day's work and your boss takes notice of that, when something like that happens or could happen, I mean, the boss can be more lenient towards you. The boss is going to recognize that, hey, I know who this is. I mean, nah, he or she wouldn't want to do that. And so they'll take your side, yes. You would receive a little bit more grace and mercy at times because of how reliable and of a good worker you are. And so masters, they don't need to be threatening. They don't need to be domineering. They don't need to be lording over as if they have all this power in the world because they enjoy having this power. Paul says that no, it's not to be the case. You need to stop doing that because guess who is watching you? Your capital M master. So keep in mind that you have a master as well. And there's no partiality with him, Paul ends this discussion in regards to Jesus Christ. Even though masters and slaves are viewed and treated different on earth, our Lord will treat them equally, and in final judgment, we stand on level ground. Are there any other thoughts about the master or employee and employer relationship?
I got one.
Go ahead, Greg.
Just think what we could do if being an older employee, and we're talking about we know what's right and how important it is to set the right example. Taking a young employee, a student under your wing or befriending them and saying, I've noticed some things about you. You've got some good qualities. Let me encourage you, always put your best foot forward. Do the right thing for the good, not for recognition. It will be recognized, but do the right thing. And all these good comments. I told a young lady she had trouble keeping a job. I said, she got one, and she talked about what she was doing. I said, all right, you don't join in the drama of the other employees. You see something that needs to be done, it's in your realm, do it without having to be told, and be busy.
Yes.
stay busy.
That's right. Always stay busy.
Be kind and don't make trouble, don't get into trouble.
Oh, yes.
Just think what you can do to help a young person grow up.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
And when you have a good boss, you hate when they leave.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's rare
Yes.
to get one that is really up there like that. And so when you have one of them and they leave, it's traumatic.
Oh, yes. It really is. It can be. And I mean, there's some great points that we have, and taking aside someone who's younger, encouraging them to keep their best foot forward and to keep staying busy. Don't get caught up in all the drama at work, because work can be a place that's full of drama, right? Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, my grandfather always says that, like, hey, when you get to work, you leave your personal stuff at the door. Yes, keep your personal stuff, all your drama stuff, leave those bags at the door. He goes, don't even bring it to the door to begin with. He says, just leave it in the car. Leave it at home. You came here to work and do your job. And so don't be bringing the drama with you.
I think another thing too that people don't realize is a lot of people don't like to be told what to do.
Oh yeah.
They don't like a boss, but I've tried to explain to people in the past that everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, there's somebody over you that's going to boss you or tell you
That's
what
right.
to do. So all the way up to God, He's over all of us, but there's steps
Mm-hmm.
along the way. So you're gonna always have somebody tell you what to do.
Exactly. And when I interact with individuals who are like that, they don't like being told what to do. And I ask them the very next question I ask them is, okay, well then let me ask you this. How are you going to survive the real world? If you don't like being told what to do, and that's the reason why you don't have a job, because you don't like having someone over you to be and telling you what it is that you need to do, then how are you going to survive the real world? You're not going to. Because like you said, Elaine, everywhere we go, we always have someone over us. I mean, if we're just out and about casually going to the grocery store, are there people over us?
The police,
There are security guards, police,
store managers.
store manager, because even when you go inside grocery stores or places like that, you have to abide by their policies and their rules.
Your
So
wife.
guess what? They're over you when you walk in. They have the right to refuse service.
Your spouse.
What?
Your spouse.
And your spouse? Always. Yes, and so wherever you go, you're going to have people over you. And sadly, we do live in a generation where people don't want to work. They don't want to put forth an honest day's work. They just want things handed to them on a silver platter, but that's not how the real world is. It's not. Yes, and so you have to work hard.
And sadly, that young person that doesn't want to be told what to do ends up in prison.
Yep. Most cases they do, without a doubt. All right, well, that was our bell. Any other concluding thoughts, remarks? All right, if not, then we're going to come into at least our last section here about being strong in the Lord and His great might, putting on the full armor of God. So we'll pick up chapter 6, verse 10 next. No, we have our gospel meeting next Sunday, the following Sunday.
That's
All right.
next week.
That's next Sunday. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm glad you said that next Sunday.